In this episode, we speak on subjects surrounding the situation happening at Red Bull Formula One team with team principal Christian Horner. These subjects are sensitive and may be upsetting for some people. Viewer discretion is advised. We will know when this section starts and ends to ensure a positive and comfortable experience for all listeners.
The second race weekend of the season has just finished. We are back with another episode to review the Saudi Arabia race weekend. Will and Ben are back with me. Boys, how are we?
I'm good.
I'm good as well. I thought it was a very, very good race weekend. I do always enjoy Saudi Arabia, so I'm quite interested to actually get into this.
Yeah, me too as well. I think it was maybe not the way we wanted it to end, but there's definitely a lot to dissect from it that was better than Bahrain for sure.
Before I crack on to reviewing the Formula 2, I want to quickly give a special note to the Formula 1 Academy, obviously set up last year to promote women drivers progressing through the Formula Series. Hopefully one day we could get a female driver in Formula 1. But, I mean, it was a good race weekend, especially with, I think it was the first race of the weekend being on International Women's Day. Might have been the second, actually. I think it was the first round.
Yeah.
And a massive shout out to Mercedes driver Doriane Pan for, well, she did win both races, but Ben, do you want to run through what happened?
Well, yeah, Doriane Pan, I felt for her really because, so what's happened for those that weren't aware is she's crossed the checkered flag. And I don't know if she had an issue with her radio or not, but actually from where the checkered flag's waved, it's quite hard. It is actually very hard to see. I've watched her on board. It's very difficult to see. So she's then continued, I think, for another 2 full laps, at least another 1 full lap, and until they had to red flag it in the end. And she obviously wasn't aware of this. Her pit wall had put like their headphones down and moved on and whatnot. And unfortunately, it meant that she was given a 20-second penalty, which then ended up dropping her to P9. She still stood on top of the podium. She still got a hug from all the Mercedes teams. So Lewis Hamilton was down there as well, which was really nice to see. But unfortunately, she then ended up not winning the main race in the end. But it's a shame, but she definitely looks like the driver to beat for sure. But well done to Pulling, who then ended up taking P1.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think what was great to see from the whole paddock, really, is the amount of support that all the drivers and all the teams were getting. Like, it wasn't just Lewis that was there. George was there. Charles was there. There were loads of drivers across the grid from Formula One that were going to watch the Formula Academy and actually speak to the drivers and give advice. And I mean, for a section of our sport that hasn't really been catered for that often, it's brilliant to see how much involvement the teams as well as the drivers. I mean, Susie Wolff, we've got to give a massive shout out to her.
She's amazing.
For what they've done for the women's side of this sport is just fantastic.
Absolutely. So, and getting it all broadcasted and live, and actually everyone can watch it this year as well, which is special. But I would say that, unfortunately, even though whenever we talk about good, we want to make it good, but there's still a long way to go. It's still a very long way to go. I think quite a lot of comments that some drivers made, not towards the F1 Academy, but towards other subjects that would be in and around the topic of things like International Women's Day, were quite disappointed. I know a lot of Formula One fans were quite disappointed with some of the things drivers were saying in the press conferences on the Wednesday. So there's always 2 sides, but still a long way to go, but a good start for the F1 Academy for sure.
100%. Now, I am going to move on to the Formula 2, which started on
the segment.
Formula 2 segment, yes. Which started on the Thursday with a very interesting result in qualifying of Ollie Bearman finishing on pole. Now, last week, the Premers were absolutely hopeless. Bearman qualified 19th, Kimi Antonelli 18th. So this weekend, total change in the whole order.
Where was Antonelli?
Antonelli was P6, but then got moved up to P5 because the reason everybody knows, Ollie Bearman got his move into the Ferrari because of...
What? I never knew that.
Really? They didn't mention it once in the broadcast, did they? With Carlos Sainz having appendicitis. Now, obviously, we wish Carlos all the best. He did look very, very... I mean,
well, he went against the doctor's will, didn't he?
Did he?
He wasn't supposed to be in that paddock.
They told him that he was going to be bedbound for at least another week.
Yeah.
He just got up the next day and was walking around the paddock, yeah.
Well, I mean, the videos that are circulating on social media of him walking through the paddock, he does not look well.
No,
whatsoever.
not
So,
The fact that
I
he's
think-
walking straight away.
If I remember correctly, was Alex Albon something like 17 days? So it will be very, very tight if he can get in the car for Australia 2 weeks' time.
I think I saw something saying that Alex's surgery didn't go quite as planned, though, whereas Carlos's is quite plain sailing as such.
Okay.
So, but yeah, brilliant performance from Bearman on the Thursday to take pole position. Cush Miney coming in second, so another great performance from him. And Jack Crawford, who last season probably wasn't really in contention for anything, doing really well at the start of this year. We got onto the sprint race on the Saturday, and Richard Verschoor took the win, which was then later taken away from him, which seems to be a repeat of last week with Cush Miney's pole. So I don't know. Like, I seem to be posting these TikToks and then thinking, hold on a minute, I shouldn't do that. So next in Australia, I might just hold off a little bit and be like, right, okay, let's wait till everything's been unravelled. And
That's the only downfall with motorsport, because
There's always
not
something.
any other sport does your final classification end up changing like 2 hours later. It's such a shame. Can I just ask you, by the way, quickly, Ollie? So what happened with Bearman's pole? Because from what I remember, he didn't get the points for pole in the end.
I'm not sure if you got the point. So for those who don't know, Formula 2, you get 2 points for a pole position, which I think is a brilliant addition, by the way.
I do too. If you get points for fast lap in F1, you should get a point for pole. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if it's 1 point, I still think you've got the fastest lap, that should be rewarded. But I'm not sure about the point situation, but I know that every driver on the grid moved up a space because
this is what I'm interested to know, because I saw something that said he's now got 6 points in F1 but none in F2. So I believe that to be that he got his pole taken away from him, meaning that whoever inherited it not only inherited starting P1 but also got the points.
I think that's a bit unfair.
I do too.
It's really poor, because it's not like, I guess it was his choice to turn around and go, oh yeah, no, sack the F2 off and race of F1 this weekend if the opportunity. But at the same time, it's what the F2 is all about. They literally are promoting you to push forward to further your career. So
and if he'd got pole and then not taken part in the races, they wouldn't, because his car wasn't working, they wouldn't have taken his pole points away, would they?
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit shame.
I think one very interesting point to take, and something that was spread around the paddock, the Formula 2 paddock anyway, was the idea of this season is Ollie Bearman could really fight for this title. And the fact that he's taken a whole race weekend away to race in Formula 1. I mean, obviously, no one would turn down that opportunity.
Yeah.
But to take that away and take away your chances, because I mean, you didn't get any points last weekend. So to take away your chances of actually getting points for the first time this season. So that means he's now 2 race weekends into the season without any points.
But then also,
Ollie, why did no one replace him in the Prema?
I'm not aware of that, but I think the reason that Bearman replaced Sainz instead of it just being a vacant seat is because the Formula 2 paddock was already there.
So that's what my next thing was going to be, is if F2 wasn't there this weekend, who do we think would have had that seat? That's what I was going to ask you next.
I think it would have been a similar situation as Lance Stroll last year in Singapore when no one took his seat, because obviously the Formula 2 and the Formula 3 weren't the support series for that race weekend. So there was no one there on immediate contact to say, look, come and drive in our seat. Because Dragovic is obviously the reserve driver for Aston Martin.
But the Stroll one was because he crashed, no? And the weekend had already started. Sainz was already... Okay, to be fair, we were 2 practice sessions in, but I don't know. A team like Ferrari, I think they would have put someone in that car for sure if the F2 paddock weren't there. I'd love to think who it may have been. Even if it was like Giovinazzi, if he's still linked there, or Kubica come out of nowhere, I don't know.
Gio's still under the Ferrari roof because he races in the WEC, so he is still under the Ferrari category.
So,
do you think, though, Ollie, this is what I'm going to say. You know how you said the only thing is it's dangerous, he was one of the main favourites to win. Do you think, and I'm going to say is, do you think he definitely has a seat in Formula 1 this season after that drive today, after that drive yesterday especially, and he's just gone, you know what, championship don't matter, I know I've got a seat, so I'm obviously he's still going to give it his best, but I don't think he'll be that concerned about it anymore. Obviously, he still wants to win, but I still think he definitely has a place.
Now, what I think regarding that is, or what I've seen as well, is I've heard or read on Twitter that apparently Haas are looking to give him a seat, or were looking to give him a seat before this weekend for next season.
Yeah.
So take from that what you will, but if
The Merc seat's still available.
he's Ferrari Academy though, isn't he?
Yeah, that is.
It's not
Yeah,
great.
But one thing I want to say as well, obviously, I really do hope that he does, for one, take the championship this year and get a seat in Formula One. But one point I do want to make is that our former Formula 2 champion, Teo Pourchaire, was racing in Super Formula this weekend. Now, I don't know if either of you saw any of the results or whatever, but neither did I, to be honest. But what I've seen is that he really, really, really struggled to adapt to the car, which a lot of people are saying you've got to give credit to Liam Lawson, because straight off the bat, Liam Lawson was there at the front of the field competing with the very best in that series. So, I mean, I know we're swerving quite off of the Bearman talk here, but I think you've got to look at Liam Lawson as well for being a real candidate for taking a seat next year.
Liam Lawson's
how well he's done.
A phenomenal, an amazing driver, though. We all know that Liam Lawson
He's
is
brilliant.
quality.
I think he'll take Danny Rick's seat. Next season.
I agree with you, but I don't really like the word deadwood, because it makes it seem as though that these people aren't one of 20 of the best drivers in the world. It's not the right word to use, but there are at least a handful of drivers off the top of my head that do not deserve a seat, if with there being only 20. If there were maybe 25, 26, then that's different. But there are so many Bearman, Lawson, so many rookie and younger drivers that deserve a seat, and they're being kept out by certain drivers. I mean, I'm sure Mr. William will want to talk through a certain someone's weekend, but when will it end? Like, when genuinely, we make jokes about, family moments and charge. When does it actually put down? You're not good enough anymore.
That wasn't even a mechanical issue or anything like that. That was pure driver error, by the way. That is pure. I'll get into it when we get into it. I'm fuming.
I think focusing back to the F2 quickly. So the sprint race, Hauger won. Paul Aaron second, Formula 3 graduate from last year. Another brilliant race weekend.
Brilliant.
I think he's going very under the radar. He was dropped from. He was Prema in Formula 3 last year, and he's at High Tech for this year. He drove absolutely brilliantly. He drove well in the feature race as well, but unfortunately, with safety cars, I mean, the Formula 2 this weekend was just mental. I mean,
he from Estonia?
He is from Estonia, yes. So,
he's really good. I like him, but my flatmate likes him as well because his name's spelt Aaron the same way, and it's very rare that you see Aaron spelled like that. So therefore, I'm actually rooting for him.
It's Aron. It's not double A and it's not double R. So
no,
it's
exactly.
Weird.
But that's the same as my flatmate. So we're rooting for him. We are rooting for him.
But yeah, Paul Aaron, very good race weekend. But probably the best race weekend, and my driver of the week is Enzo Fittipaldi. Now, he came third in the sprint race, which was brilliant result for him. I think that's his first podium of the year. And he won the feature race. Now, I don't know if either of you two have seen, but the move he done to take the lead was sublime. He went from third to first in one corner.
Oh, wow.
So it was Juan Manuel Correa and Paul Aaron, actually, who were side by side going into turn one. And Fittipaldi on fresher tyres literally just went around the outside of them going into turn one at Jeddah.
Outside?
Mm-hmm. And took the lead. And then he literally just dashed, ran away with it. Absolutely brilliant performance.
How old is he now, though?
He's, I want to say 21.
Oh, really?
Or 20. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. That
his brother was racing in IndyCar this weekend, which has also started.
Yeah.
About that, but if I'm honest, it was quite a boring race, so there wasn't really much to delve into there.
Well, I wanted to ask you, really, those drivers that sit in F2 that are good drivers, but they're really not ever going to see an F1 seat. What is the next best thing? Is it IndyCar? Is it Super Formula? Is it trying to just win the F2 championship? And like, really, realistically, what's the next best thing? Formula E?
They have got a lot of options. I mean, you've mentioned the three main ones there for open wheel racing: Super Formula, IndyCar, and Formula E. I think IndyCar. I think the best way to describe what IndyCar is it's at the same pinnacle of motorsport as Formula One, but all the cars are the same. So like Formula Two, but so IndyCar is basically based off of driver performance. If you make an error, then you make an error. It's not the car's fault.
It's an
'cause
F2.
the same error. Pardon?
It's F2 on steroids.
Yeah, it's pretty much F2 on steroids. But I think the interesting thing with that is you look at the F2 drivers who have gone there; they haven't really succeeded, which makes you think how if they're doing well in Formula 2 but then struggling in IndyCar, are the drivers at the top of the IndyCar ladder good enough to get into F1? Obviously, there was a lot of talk a few years. Award, Alex Palou, Colton Herta, all looking like strong candidates to get into F1, but because of the super license issue, they haven't been able to.
Here's a question for you. We know F1's growing massively in the States, but do you think IndyCar is bigger than F1 in the States? It definitely will be in certain parts, no?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it is at all, to be honest.
You don't think that people that are maybe from Indianapolis won't claim that the Indy 500 is bigger than the Miami Grand Prix?
I think the Indy 500 compared to the rest of the IndyCar season is on a totally different level. Like I see,
the equivalent of Monaco, I guess.
Yeah, it is like the Formula One equivalent of Monaco. It's like everyone holds it to like the best, like the race that everyone wants to win.
What a race that is, by the way. Who was it that won it last year? Was it Joseph Newgarden?
Joseph Newgarden, who also...
And then he jumped in the crowd. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. He won this weekend in IndyCar as well. But, I mean, going back to your point of is IndyCar as big in America as Formula One is, you look at the stands, I mean, the grandstands, most of them are empty in St. Petersburg. So it was kind of like, it is still big and it is really enjoyable to watch, but it's never going to be as big as F1.
Is old Stingray Rob still there?
He was, but he crashed out.
No! Stingy!
Stingray Rob. I mean, I still can't get over what a good name that is.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
But, Roman Grosjean was there as well. He got a penalty for spinning someone out. Imagine my shock. But, so back to the Formula 2 as we keep diverting off the track.
Enzo Fittipaldi is 22.
22. Oh, I was close enough. But first feature race win in Formula 2 for him. Nicknamed the Little Shark, which is, I think it's quite a cool nickname. But he was... the thing that I liked most about the Formula 2, especially the feature race, was how excited the drivers were for winning. I mean, I don't know if you heard the...
You're not used to it. That's why, yeah.
If you heard the radios, they were thrilled. They were literally screaming like with all of their lung power to just let everyone know their excitement. I mean, Dennis Hauger, by the way, who came third in the feature race. I don't know if you saw the photo finish.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch my TikTok on the Trackside Podcast F1 TikTok channel, there we go. It was I think it was 0.03 of a second that he beat Crawford and Aaron by. It was literally like they were side by side going over the line. It was phenomenal.
But didn't he cross the line you're not supposed to cross, like the pit, the massive white line on the left hand side, like the pit straight line? Didn't he cross that?
They did investigate that, but he was cleared of it. So I would have had to make another TikTok.
Yeah,
if he
was some very dodgy calls this weekend on things that looked like they were wrong and then were let off the hook.
But I think overall,
bizarre.
Yes. So the driver standings now are Maloney at the top, who, I mean, again, by the way, he qualified 16th, moved up to 15th because of Bearman going up to F1. But I think he finished the sprint race in 6th or 5th, which 10 positions in a sprint race, which was 20 laps, I think it was. Absolutely phenomenal. He didn't have the pace on the Thursday, unfortunately, in the qualifying. But, I mean, in the racing on the Friday and the Saturday, he was just brilliant again. I mean, I really think he might be able to go all the way this year.
Do you?
Yeah. No,
but would he end up in Formula 1, though?
No, I don't.
Contracted under?
I don't... pardon?
Is he contracted under in the academy?
Yeah, he's Sauber.
Oh,
because he drives in the kick, didn't he? He drives in your favourite car.
Yeah.
But Ollie, what makes you say that he could potentially go all the way, but doesn't end up in F1? What, he doesn't have the backing?
Yeah, I think that's it. Because I mean, you look at
That's
some
so
of the
sad, man.
I know, but you look at some of the other drivers. You look at Zhou. I think he came fourth in the championship the year he got promoted to Formula One, but because he has the backing of China,
Mazepin, Sargent.
because Mazepin's. I mean, Mazepin I think came eighth. I think it was in the championship the year he got promoted to F1.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
feel
That
free to
money
correct me
making,
if I'm wrong for anyone that's listening, but I think
It's just sad. I wish there was a rule or something along the lines of like if you win F2, you're automatically given a seat. But that wouldn't work like that, you know, or
I saw something
automatically given a reserve seat or something. Yeah.
I saw a tweet the other day saying that what should happen is that, I mean, we saw what happened with Bearman this weekend. It was absolutely brilliant to see how he competed in the highest level of motorsports machinery.
Yeah.
And I saw something saying that every weekend they should take a driver out of one of the cars, out of one of the teams, and replace them with a Formula 2 driver. Even if they're not like a Formula 2 winner or top of the championship, they should replace them with one of their academy drivers. I think it would be brilliant. It would make the sport so much more thrilling to watch, and it would engage new fans brilliantly. Not only for the F1, but if people see people now are going to be much more invested in Formula 2. If they saw how well Bearman's done in Formula 1 this weekend, they're now going to be watching a lot more.
I don't know how many followers Bearman had on Instagram before the weekend, but he's now got 1 million on Instagram. And I can almost guarantee you that those, let's say 500,000 that weren't following him before, probably more than that, they didn't just follow him because they probably didn't even know who he was.
I reckon his following went absolutely mental.
Yeah. I reckon he just had to lock it away in a safe.
You got a message from Seb Vettel congratulating him on getting the seat, which, I mean,
he did.
Not bad, is it?
We got to love Seb, haven't we? I mean, he was saying that Seb was one of his heroes as well. So,
did you see who the first person was waiting for him as soon as he got out the car as well after the race?
Sir Lewis, your favourite?
Well, yeah, and George as well. I just think that's really, really nice to see, and it was great as well how much help Carlos was giving him. It seemed as well.
Yeah. To quickly round off the Formula 2, the overall standings for the top three anyway are Maloney, Fittipaldi and Hauger, who are all having really good seasons so far. I mean, as I said...
Where's Antonelli?
Antonelli, he got his first points in the feature race, I believe it was. I don't think he got any points in the sprint race this weekend, and he didn't get any points last weekend. So he's not living up to expectation, really. I mean, obviously, it's only 2 races into the season, still very new to the car, but...
Technically 4.
Technically, yeah, for Formula 2 it's 4. But, it's not... At the minute, I've only seen one real glimpse of him that I'm like, okay, this kid's good. And that was last weekend in Bahrain. He made a few good moves this weekend, but nothing to write home about. But my driver of the weekend, as I said, is Fittipaldi. An unbelievable performance on both days, getting a double podium. I could have given the award to Hauger because obviously he'd done the same. But I think for getting his first feature race win, kudos go to Enzo Fittipaldi. But I think he'll be more happy with receiving the Driver of the Week award from the Trackside podcast, if I'm honest.
It's very true. I know somewhere right
it's
now.
A very big accolade.
He's got post notifications on for this, and when he hears that, through the roof, mate, through the roof.
He is going to be delighted. Shall we move on to the Formula 1?
I think we should move on to the Formula Uno. I do. And actually, before I'm sure you say what we've got to say, I want to give I actually want to jump the gun because I'm too excited. I want to give my driver of the day, of the week, of the whatever. I want to give it to you now, just because of how excited I am to give it, right? Now, he may or may not have committed potential war crimes, but Kevin Magnussen, oh my God, I am actually disappointed in myself, right? If you didn't know, the TikTok and the Insta Reel, I did pick the top 10 blind ranking. And I put K-Mag at 9. I did this before the weekend. K-Mag, I'm going to do a Will Smith here. I'm going to give an apology because I am so sorry for putting you in 9th place on my blind ranking, considering you were my second option. Because this weekend you were incredible. The defending was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And like I said, yeah, the incident with Albon, he also went off as well. Picked up 20-second worth of penalties. He might as well start calling him Kevin Ocon, right? But he did unbelievable. And I did actually vote for him on Driver of the Day. I'm not going to lie. I did. I know. Clip it. But I did. I voted for Kevin Magnussen as driver of the day because despite the war crimes committed, he was fantastic.
You
I
voted
think-
a driver who finished 18th as driver of the day.
Well, no. So, and I'm going to have to hold my hands up. That is a mistake I made. The 20 seconds worth of penalties I thought dropped him down because once he crossed the line on the graphic, he dropped all the way to the bottom. But actually, the official classifications, the 20-second penalty only dropped him to 12th. So not only did he hold up all of those cars, he then went and finished 20 seconds ahead of Sonoda, Ricardo. This is what I mean, Will. I couldn't believe it. On the graphic, I put him as last. He wasn't even lapped.
I mean, did you see? I mean, I think obviously you got to give him his flowers. Credit where credit's due. His defending was phenomenal. Did you see his onboards through sector 1? He was literally using minimal throttle.
He was
literally
lifted off.
like that, going through every corner.
I loved it.
Every lap, it was an extra half a second gained, or half a second technically lost to the car in front. It was unbelievable.
I think we got to say at the start of the season, before we actually recorded last week's episode as well, in our season opener, we said Haas are going to be the worst team on the grid this year.
Yeah.
Haas, I'm going to say this now on behalf of all of us. We were not familiar with your game.
Yeah, we owe you an apology.
Another apology.
Honestly, the has to plan. I'm telling you, that's what it is.
It was. I mean, it was brilliant. I mean, last weekend
there has been a transformation.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Right, we're going to end the episode there.
No, but they're sixth best team. Sixth best team. And if Mr. Stroll is going to be letting Aston Martin down, I'm not going to say they're going to challenge Aston Martin, but they can easily is maybe the wrong word to use, but they can be that team that sneak in to 10th and 9th every other week. I don't see why not. I thought that was going to be Williams, but
their plan, 100% their plan for Australia is let there be a safety car. Don't box Magnussen. Let him hold up everyone and even take out Verstappen just for pure vibes. Get Hulkenberg his first podium.
I saw something similar on Twitter. Sorry, Ben.
No, that's fine.
I think it was K-Mag cut the whole of turn 1, get a 20-second penalty, cause a red flag, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, no, cause a safety car, hold up the rest of the pack while the safety car's coming round, get Hulk to go and pit on lap 1, put him onto hards, let him just lap around the track and then win the race.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something, if we look at how Haas have performed, especially this weekend, it is something that could be possible.
No, and when they let go of Gunter Steiner, I think everyone looked at that from a personality perspective as a massive mistake. But on the driver front, could be huge, could be very big indeed. And I think the drivers know that one of them's probably gone at the end of the year. Not just because of Bearman, just in terms of it's their time. Whether or not both of them will have to wait and see.
They're both pretty old now. What are they like?
Mid-30s or early 30s.
They're the only team. They're the only teammates that have kids.
Yeah, they're the only drivers that got kids. Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, K-Mag with his daughter. When I don't know if you've seen the videos this week, his daughter gives him the gloves before he gets in the car, which is
it's so cute, isn't it? It is. But no, sorry, I'm so sorry. I had to jump the gun because I was too excited.
Kevin Magnussen is 31.
Oh, really? I thought he was older.
And Nico Hülkenberg is 36.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't realise that there was that much.
No, I had to jump the gun genuinely because I was so impressed. So impressed. And Will, I was as shocked as you as well because I didn't think he finished P12.
Yeah, I thought he'd finished basically bottom of the table. Obviously ahead of Logan Sargent because everyone's ahead of Logan Sargent. But I thought he'd finished like dead last, basically.
But if we are speaking about bottom of the barrel in terms of this weekend, please, someone talk to me about Daniel Ricciardo.
I thought you were going to go elsewhere with that.
No, I don't know what side of Twitter I've all of a sudden entered because I thought everyone loved this man. The amount of hate that I saw him getting this weekend was ridiculous.
Is there another word for finished or washed in Australian?
Well, this is the thing. Yuki's outperforming him. 14th in qualifying, I think he was. And
I said this in our season opener for the podcast. I said that Yuki Tsunoda could potentially get the Red Bull seat. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's been granted it so far this season. Because I mean, I'm just gonna say this now. I think Perez has actually been quite good this season. Obviously, Max is in another league, but Perez at the minute is best of the rest.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's in the best car.
Perez is actually doing, even though, like, last
He
season.
always starts well.
No, but last season it was always Max is in a world of his own. Perez needs to be in a world of his own ahead of the rest, and he wasn't. He actually is this year. Like, he actually is putting in performances of a deserved number 2 driver in that car. He's
I
making
agree.
the most of it.
Did you actually know, though? So, because obviously Perez won in Saudi last year, and Perez normally starts quite well and then slips off. But that was actually the first time that Verstappen had won the opening 2 races of a season. He'd never done that before. So rather than looking at as in, yeah, but rather than looking at that as a, oh, here we go. I'm looking at that as a, so you're telling me maybe Perez wins the next 3?
I don't think anyone wins the next 58, to be perfectly honest. I think if Max continues on the way that he's going, he's going to break every single record ever put out by the sport.
You are right.
He is like, he's not even in another league of his own. He's in another universe of his own. He's phenomenal. The thing that I think is ridiculous as well is, I don't know if you've seen this, he on race day he was up until 3 a.m. on iRacing.
Yeah, I did see that.
Wait, who was?
Max.
And
he then went and go on to win the race. It's like, I've seen this on Twitter and TikTok the past few days. Is he treats F1 now as if it's his Sunday job, and iRacing is his actual job. Which, I mean, racing is just his life, but he is incredible. I think he will. This is going to really, really sting for you, Ben, but I think he will be the greatest driver of all time.
Moving on to some stats that I've got for you. Because I actually, to be fair, I like to think of my position in this podcast is to deliver the statisticals to the listeners, but to you too as well. And I like saying them because they are fun to get off your chest. So I have got down that Verstappen obviously claimed his 9th consecutive victory, tying the second longest streak in F1, because he's trailing his own record of 10 that he picked up last year. So therefore, he's won 19 of the last 20. That's just unbelievable. It was obviously his 100th podium as well. He's only the 7th driver to do so. I think Lewis is on 197. So he's 3 off of 200. So imagine, let's just think about that. So 100 podiums, I think, in 188 races, you said off air, didn't you,
yes.
Ollie?
Yeah, 188.
188. Lewis is 297 in 300 I think it's like 360 or 370 odd races. So Lewis still has more than half on his podiums, but the fact that only 88 races he's not been on the podium, considering as well his first podium was a win for Max.
And I think the thing you've got to think about as well is Lewis has always, apart from the past few seasons, Lewis has always been in a competitive front-running car. Think about when Max started. He was in a Toro Rosso when he started. He then moved to an uncompetitive kind of Red Bull.
Yeah.
For the first few years. It was only until 2021 that Red Bull actually started looking like, okay, we could be one of the superior cars on the grid.
Well, for me, it was the Abu Dhabi 2020 race where he won the last race of 2020. I know Lewis had still been recovering from COVID. They took that into the next year, and they've gone from there, really.
Yeah,
but I mean,
if you think 2020 was like,
if you think about that, that's 4 years at the start of your career in an uncompetitive team, and he's already got 100 podiums, and he's only 26.
It's just so...
He's 13, 14 years younger than Lewis, and he's already got 100 podiums.
Oh, genuinely, right? And this isn't a joke. This isn't... This is after turn 1 and a little bit on... Was he seen on the broadcast? Genuinely?
No. What I found really funny was they had to actually... You know when they put the little mini camera on the leaderboard on the left-hand side? They had to put that on Max just to let us know that he was still in the race. Because we didn't see him. It was like Monaco. It was like Monaco. Like, was it last year or the year before, where all of a sudden he was just gone, and we didn't see him until.
Can I just say one thing, by the way, because I'd love to know the psychology of this. Okay, when you're not having to overtake cars, and yes, okay, he's fantastic with his starts, but when you're not having to overtake, and you're so used to back markers, and I know Norris did lead for 5 laps this weekend, but even Norris basically let him by. When you're not having to overtake and cars are just naturally letting you through, do you think that is then a case of if he actually had drivers challenging him, all of a sudden I'm not going to say he'd forget, but this is why he has the crashes he has, because he hasn't had it. When's the last time? I think he's now gone 2 years. Yeah, Australia 2022 was the last time he had reliability. That's 2 years that he's now gone without having an issue. Or he's not had a crash since Monza in 2021.
No, Saudi 2021.
Sorry, yeah.
Not he didn't take him out the race, but
yeah. I don't get it. It's not fair. Like, it's not fair in the sense of how you can do that for that long without an issue or without an incident. Or I will say it till the cows come home. If he wins races by like 2 seconds and he's fighting with like Alonso and Perez to the line in Brazil, oh my God, absolutely incredible. But he's not being challenged. I don't know how I'm supposed to react to someone winning that's not being challenged. It's like imagine in football, right? A team just walked out and just kept winning like 10-0. You'd say, yeah, but the other team just sat on the floor. They didn't do anything.
It's the
So
sign.
I don't know. Like,
it's the
do you know
sign
what I mean?
of a champion. You say he's just not lapping cars or something like that, and he's just going around not trying. It's the sign of a world class champion. And like Ollie said, if he carries on and there is no competition, because even if I think there would be competition, I think he'd still thrive.
I don't know, Will. That's my thing.
He has that much confidence in the car and his ability that I think he could genuinely. He will outbrake anyone. He will hang it round the outside of a fast corner. He will put a nose in.
But my thing is,
he's at that stage. He's at that stage in his career now where he's got the car underneath him and his talent. He will go. He's probably looking at himself, going, "All right, I am now." He's going to be a 4-time world champion. Let's be honest. He's probably thinking, I'm going to be a 4-time world champion. If you want it that badly, you put your nose in and you make it. It's kind of like the whole Senna Prost thing. Like, I will put my nose there. If you want to do something about it, do something about it. You take us both out. That's the mentality he now has. And I don't think anyone else has the grit and determination to actually challenge him again. And honestly, Ben, I'll say this now. I think Lewis has lost it. I think Lewis has lost that bite, that bite.
Well, I think he's lost his confidence in a car.
Yeah. And that is one because of the car, and two because of what happened. I think he has lost that bite. And even if next season Lewis and Max go head to head in a Red Bull and a Ferrari, or a Merc and a Ferrari, but if that happens, I think Max will tear him apart again because Lewis has lost his bite and his edge.
This is a great conversation, right? And this is what I'm loving about this transformation of the podcast is rather than just literally talking about what's happened at the weekend, we can actually go on off topics and discuss things, right? But this is something I'd love to get into, right? So my thing is, I 100% agree with the Lewis side of things. I'm not going to say he's lost it, but I do think 3 years of bad cars, it would seem, you've lost your confidence.
But you can't just say that when Ross was dragging out performances out of it.
No. So I think in terms of
him again.
No, listen. I think in terms of like qualifying, Lewis's qualifying hasn't been it for a while now, and I think even he's admitted to that. And I will admit that Russell so far is definitely outperforming Lewis. Of course, time will tell whether he does over the course of the season. But my thing is, with Max, absolutely 100% an unbelievable driver, and to constantly do what he's doing is incredible. But like how we say, if Lewis won an 8th at Ferrari, it would make him the undisputed GOAT because he did it at all the teams. He did it. You're almost not saying he is now, because if he did that, it would take him one step. So my thing is, Max, to take him to another step, is he needs to be challenged. He won one world championship. Of course, he won it the way he won it. Let's not go into that. He's then won a further 2 with no rival. No rival. He's going to potentially now win another one. No rival. It's And people will go, yeah, but Lewis did fine, but there was maybe a teammate there. There was the Vettel one, there was the Bottas one, whatever, right? But I'm just talking about now. There's no rival there. He's not even having to make overtakes in races. Not even just, oh, I'm fighting the championship. You're getting on pole, fine. The concentration to go 50, 60, 70 laps without, fine. But you're not overtaking anyone. I think put Lewis Hamilton, the only driver that seems to actually fight with Max. Leclerc lets him through, Norris lets him through, Perez lets him through. Put Lewis Hamilton in a car that he's comfortable in, whether it be a Mercedes, a Ferrari, whatever. Max forgets what he's doing. If it's Sainz, we saw in Monza last year, right, when he was behind Sainz for however many laps, he didn't care. He was like, I'm going to win this race. Let him either make a mistake or I will bide my time. Lewis, he has to be ahead of it. He can't let Lewis be ahead for 3 laps. I have to be ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That's what it was. So if Lewis was fighting Max right now, I'm absolutely convinced we would have what we had before, where neither of them, no, but I am. I absolutely am. But Leclerc, if Leclerc was 5 seconds ahead this weekend, Max would be like, oh, it's fine, I'll win. Let me just get closer and I'll overtake him where I want to overtake him. Lewis, no, Lewis, you can't be ahead of me, mate. I'm going to dive down and do some stupid turn 1 madness.
I think
Max is matured.
But
how can you say he's matured when he's had no challenge? What's there to mature on? There's nothing.
The confidence he has in his ability now. Like I said, you may say he drove how many laps? So how many laps has he gone without an issue now since 2021?
2022
laps. I don't even have a clue.
Exactly. It's easy over what, 1,000? Over 5,000. 5,000 laps consistently without a single issue, and it's not like they're different paces. We saw that from Bahrain on the weekend. They're all the same pace. They are all high, quick race paces.
I think one thing that's got to be stated as well is that this isn't just in the race. He doesn't have issues in practice. He doesn't have issues in qualifying. He doesn't have issues in the race. He has been so consistent. And yeah, you can say like, oh, okay, it's because he's got the car and he's not being challenged. But you look at Checo. I know we've said a million times it's not the same car, but in qualifying, in races, in practice, he's making mistakes. He's crashing. He's having problems where he's maybe overdriving the car. Whereas Max knows how to drive that car to perfection. It's not a matter of he drives it well. He drives it to perfection.
No, and that is what has to. That is the credit that has to be given. It's not Max Verstappen's boring. Max Verstappen's not challenged, therefore he's not a champion. No, let's make that very clear. It's unbelievable what he does, and he's going to go into the record books as one of the greatest of all time. There's no doubt about it. My point and where I come from is just that you're abiding into my point a bit there. 5,000 laps, whatever, without an issue, without a challenge. Exactly. So put a challenge for him there now, and then let's see if he can do it easily. Unfortunately, the thing that I have an issue with Formula One at the minute, you even go back to before even testing took place, and Lando Norris did an interview about if he wanted Verstappen to be his teammate and something, and he kind of actually downplayed it as in no, or this. I don't want to inaccurately misquote, but it was something. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'd be up for the challenge type of thing. And I was baffled by it. I was like, why don't you want to be fighting the best? Why don't you want to this way? And it seems to be that the only person that ever really puts Max under threat or challenges Max was Lewis. And we even saw was it 2022 Brazil? They were back at it again with each other. And Max had gone the whole season with nothing. And then all of a sudden, Lewis and Max were having, whatevers. This is my thing. I would very, very happily sit in front of you and whoever wants to question it if Lewis Hamilton was fighting Max Verstappen and Max Verstappen was doing what he's doing with other drivers where he downplays it, goes, that's fine, I know I'll get him in X amount of laps time. And if that was to happen, I will very happily sit here and say to you, no, do you know what? He's proved my point wrong. But my point is, as of now, he's not challenged by other drivers. He's challenged by taking the car and outperforming it and doing what he does compared to his teammate, no shadow of a doubt. But he's not challenged by the other 19 drivers. Therefore, I need to see more.
Yeah, I think your argument is definitely valid, and I think the fact that in that we have acknowledged the fact of you can't discredit him for what he is doing because it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, I know the machinery is phenomenal. I know Lewis had incredible machinery as well, but it is on a par with Lewis in 2019 when he drove the absolute socks off of that car and he wasn't really challenged and he was unbelievable. And I think, again, I think it's quite
Lewis
reminiscent.
still never went 19 out of 20 though.
No, which I think makes it even more remarkable.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, Max is brilliant, and he's not even gonna win just 4. He's gonna win 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Probably he might even do 10.
It's like Crofty said. I think when Lewis beat Schumacher's race record at the time, records are there to be broken, and that's what they are there for, to be broken. Absolutely, 100%. And if he does it, in fair play to him for that. It doesn't even. The only reason I say Lewis Hamilton is because of the season we got. If 2022 Leclerc had somehow taken it to like the last 3 races and he'd won more than the 2 or 3 races he'd won, then I'd be putting Leclerc in the conversation. It's just that like last year I said with the Monza race, he wasn't even bothered that he was behind Sainz for 20 laps because he knew he'd get him. But with Lewis, it was like, I have to be ahead of you for the entirety of the race. I can only go off of what I see. He's unbelievable. Let's get that very clear. But I just wish that he could have more fights.
I think that's probably a brilliant place to end that.
115 though for Red Bull, so they are up to 4th. Overtake Williams. But yeah.
So yeah, I think Red Bull again, very dominant display. Obviously, there's a lot going on off track. I think.
Well, do you want to discuss helmet Marco, Ollie?
Would be a good place to get it onto.
On the topic of Red Bull, let's go on to it. So, was it before the race weekend started? There were a few rumours floating around saying that Helmut Marko was going to leave or be suspended by Red Bull, which then led questions going to Max, because obviously Max and Helmut's relationship is ridiculously strong.
Watertight, yeah.
And Max was, and I think, wasn't it Bahrain last week when Max was being interviewed, and one of the reporters said to him, what would it take for you to leave Red Bull? And he said something extremely crazy. This week, the reporter asked him, would that something extremely crazy
Rachel
be
Brooks, yeah.
Helmut Marko leaving? And Max was like,
that would be crazy, yeah.
So it looked like our rumours that we analysed last week in the podcast about Max going to Mercedes were a bit more closer to reality than what we were saying last week.
Talk about that. Like even they're even asking Toto Wolff now what he would think about it, and there's a lot.
He wants it as well.
He does want it, yeah, and I think Max wants it. Now, even if
why would he though?
Would you?
It would. But here's the thing: it would further cement himself as the greatest of all time. Oh, you've done it in another car.
I think most importantly.
Well, let's not start that conversation.
Mate, it's the same thing as football. Like it's all good doing it for one club, go abroad and doing it in a different country. It's the same thing as that.
I think
doesn't that then, if he does it in a Merc next year, does that then not the whole argument of it's the machinery underneath him?
But I think a good point to make is
that argument.
I think a good point to make is it's not just any Merc seat, it's Lewis's Merc seat. If he goes in and does it in Lewis's Mercedes seat,
does it then not completely cancel the argument of it's just the machinery underneath it? Because
absolutely, but that would make him a 5-time champion, saying he wins this year. So how could you be the GOAT if you're still...
You fully turn
people put Senna in the conversation, so I imagine
fully turn around then, and I then argue, even if he doesn't win 7, if he wins that in that Merc seat, you do have to turn around and go, well, hold on a minute.
Max Verstappen wins a world championship in a Mercedes seat, in Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes seat. I'm leaving trackside. Because I've got no leg to stand on.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't say it's impossible, because if he honestly does win, if he does win it in a Merc seat, you do have to seriously turn around and go, okay,
nah.
There you go. And for me, that would put the debate to bed. It would put the debate, and obviously, debate is still very up in the air as Max continues to get better and better. Obviously, there's not a chance right now that he's anywhere up near Lewis's standards in terms of the history books, in terms of GOAT status. But if he wins a championship in a different car in that Merc when Lewis goes to Ferrari and Lewis doesn't challenge him in that Ferrari, even if he wins 5 titles and Lewis still has the 7, for me he's on top. He
No,
would be on
like
top.
I would get your point. And actually, from a bias point aside, from just a racing point, just even if it was the same guy winning and in a different team, at least it would be some form of refreshness.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine Red Bull then just stop winning. So you probably would get Red Bull wins, Mercedes wins, Ferrari. That's all we've ever been asking for. No point has anyone ever said that they don't want Max winning. They just don't want him winning every week. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Or he
I'm
wins
not
every
even
week,
asking.
and
It's not
by a second.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be. I know people probably think all I want is doesn't. I want a Hungary 2021 again, you know, or a Monza 2020. I want Gasly and Ocon coming through. I want to see Norris get his first win. I want Leclerc on the top step. I want Sainz to be proven Ferrari wrong that they let him go on. He's on the top step. You know, I want Perez to be able to show why he's in that second Red Bull seat. And if Max wins 10 of the 24, you know, great. And then the other 14, mix them up. 3 for this one. Get Alonso back on the top. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I just want some competitiveness. And I still, in my gut, believe it's not possible for Max Verstappen to win 24 races. I hold out for something.
Better start believing it, boy.
I think we've diverted quite a lot off track of, okay, we're going to rest that conversation there and move on to Helmut Marko, but let's get back to it.
Well, I wanted to tell Will. I was going to tell Will about all the off stuff because I didn't know if you would have seen it.
Like what?
Well, with like John Elkann, the CEO of Ferrari, and that.
No, I'd seen all the stuff surrounding like Max going to Mercedes and stuff like that, and Toto Wolff being down for it.
So this is the interesting thing. So John Elkann, the CEO of Ferrari, was spotted leaving Red Bull's hospitality in Jeddah with the CEO of Red Bull GmbH, so not the Red Bull Racing Oracle side of things, but the Red Bull GmbH, Oliver Mintzlaff. So a lot of people were putting 2 and 2 together there about whether that could be Adrian Newey rumours.
Mm.
So that is obviously, you know, that could be massive. Obviously, we don't know if it's about Adrian Newey. But then the other thing was that Helmut Marko later confirmed in the weekend to Sky Germany that he would continue at Red Bull because he'd had a meeting with Oliver Mintzlaff and it had all been smoothed out.
This section now goes into the allegations surrounding Christian Horner. If you feel you would not like to listen to this section of the podcast, please skip to 1 hour, 1 minute and 36 seconds where we conclude the conversation on the topic.
There were then more rumours, and can only state them as rumours, that the Thai side that are the 51% owners, the side that are siding with Horner, had then lost confidence in Horner. And then there's more stuff that's come out that that's not true, and that Horner has said the team's better than ever and that it's all okay. So it's still very up in the air. What I'm waiting for, and let's make it very clear, not what I'm hoping for, what I'm waiting for, is for Horner to have a blip in an interview. When he's constantly asked the same question week after week, surely he's going to snap and go, how many times have I told you the team's this, the team's that? And that's the bit that everyone wants. But he knows that that's what everyone wants. And he's obviously very well media trained for it. But when Simon Lazenby for Sky F1 was saying to him over the course of the weekend, I've got to ask you this. And he's, because I don't know if either of you really watch a lot of the post stuff. I actually think, by the way, I'm starting to enjoy the dissecting of media more than the races. Not, and let's make this clear, this isn't just because of what's going on at Red Bull. I think I'm genuinely just finding my passion for it because of what we all study. But I think that Horner in Bahrain wasn't really asked many questions. It was ask you about the race, a question, and maybe a follow-on about what's going on. The team's in a great position, move on. This weekend, he kind of gave the same answers. Simon was then hitting back with, but you have to understand that you said that last week and then we've had this week, or you said that, but from an outsider's view, it's not very clear, and he was really being pushed. So can you imagine if after 2 weeks he's still being asked the same questions and he pushed even further? You'd imagine he'd snap.
I don't think it's going to last 2 weeks. I genuinely think it's going to last the remainder of the season, if not until Horner leaves. Obviously, we aren't going to make a comment as a podcast on everything that's going on, our views on it and whatever. Obviously, I mean, I think what I saw on the broadcast on the Thursday, I think it was, just before practice started, is that in regards to it being sorted, there's been a lot of things said saying just leave it, it's done now. I think in regards to in the Red Bull paddock and in the Red Bull garage, it's all sorted and everything's been kind of swept under the carpet. However, on the outside world, everyone else is never going to forgive or forget what's happened in recent times. I think that's probably the best way of explaining everything that's going on at the minute, is the fact of everything at Red Bull has been forgotten about and sorted. However, in the outside world, we still want more answers.
Yeah,
I'll throw it to you. I'll throw it to you real quick. 1 to 5 odds that. I'll ask you 3 questions. 1 to 5 odds that Horner leaves, either end of the season or this season.
Well, no.
1 being doesn't, 5 being does.
Before we do that, Will, I am sorry, but I say this as an individual, so because there's a potential chance that I don't want to attach the podcast if this is me, but we don't know all the ins and outs, and the reason for that is because the transparency of the entire investigation within the Horner situation has not been good whatsoever.
Matt Brown said something along them lines, isn't he?
Yeah, I feel that you have to be very careful when you're talking about subjects without all the relative information. But I think that the woman being the woman that accused Christian Horner of the offences that's landed him in the position that he finds himself in, being suspended, that's what feels wrong the most, because there's not been enough transparency. All we have seen as the outsiders, someone has said, I don't like what my boss has been doing or saying, and then all of a sudden that means that you're going to be suspended. That's all we've seen. Yes, it went to a trial or something, and it was dictated by someone away to take bias and to take all the facts into accountability. And in that sense, Horner was cleared. So therefore, you have to respect that decision. But there has not been enough transparency around the whole thing of, effectively, it seems a woman has accused a man of something and then been suspended for it. That is what doesn't feel right. And I think as well, the fact that it fell more around International Women's Day as well kind of put it in such a sour place. It hasn't been dealt with correctly, I don't feel.
No.
That's not to say that someone has or hasn't done something, but the way that it's being dealt in the public eye is not acceptable, I don't feel. And I think that of course, you don't want a situation like this to happen again, but it has to be dealt with a lot better, and especially from the senior figures in Formula One as well, and the FIA, and those that, and Liberty Media, those that it kind of falls to. It needs to be dealt with a lot better, because it's just not right.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think it's been dealt appropriately with whatsoever. I think, as you said, the lack of transparency. Like, we don't know if. So say if these rumours come out and they are true, which it looks very likely. The thing that's probably the most concerning is she's now been suspended. Is she getting the support that she needs?
This is the thing.
Yeah.
That's what's very important, is in a world where we talk openly about, being open and honest and fighting for what you believe in. If you've obviously made this very big and brave and bold choice to come out and say that what's been happening is wrong, and for the top dog to be involved in it, to then find yourself in a position like this is only going to set it back so further behind than it already is, of people wanting to come forward and say that they don't feel okay in a workplace or wherever it be. It's not right. It has not been dealt with correctly, and it is important that you have to remember that let's call it a trial was conducted and he was cleared of the charges. That is an important factor in this. But the fact that someone's come forward and then been suspended and almost made out to be a bad person,
and
hushed
and ushered aside.
Yeah,
it's not right.
That's not right, and that's only going to make other people who maybe have experienced something similar to what the accused has put forward think, oh no, that could happen to me, and that's not right. That's what we don't want happening. That's what we don't want people feeling as though they have to feel in the workplace or wherever it may be in life, because, well, it's just not right, is it?
No. I think until we find out more information, and obviously it will come out over the course of the season, I think for now, with all the information we know, that's probably a good place to pitch that point and leave it where it is, because obviously that's all that we know as outsiders. We don't
also
know.
don't want to say anything wrong.
No, that's the thing. Like, it's very clear to stress that there's a difference between, and we will move on to the rest of the weekend, but it's very clear that when I mentioned earlier on about how some drivers in the press conference just wanted to sweep it under the carpet, and some of them said, I'm here to race. That is wrong, because you are effectively choosing to ignore what's going on because it maybe doesn't affect you or it's not of interest to you. That's wrong. So we want to mention that we understand the significance of it, and we want to mention that we don't feel as though the way it's been conducted is correct. But unfortunately, without further evidence and without further knowledge and understanding of the situation, we can't go into further depth. So as long as we can share our thoughts of how we're feeling and that we hope that all people involved come out of this okay, that's where we have to unfortunately leave it. But as long as we're acknowledging it and not just sweeping it under the carpet, unfortunately, like some people seem to do so this weekend.
I think we'll rest that point there. We'll come back to it again once we have more information, as we've said. But let's get back to the race itself. So we've just spoken about Red Bull. Let's talk about the other end of the field. And even before the race had started, a certain Mr. Pierre Gasly, I mean, the Alpine is just
not there, yeah.
I mean, we spoke last week about losing senior officials in their team and losing major pieces to their puzzle as such. I mean, Gasly's gearbox went before the race had even started. And, I mean, they qualified, what was it? Was it 18th and 19th?
Yeah, they were both out in Q1 again, I'm pretty sure. Or did Ocon make it through? No. Oh, no, it was the same bottom five, wasn't it? Just a different order, yeah. So I'm baffled at how badly Alpine have got it wrong. But yet I still look at what McLaren did and think they can turn it around. Maybe not to the level that McLaren did, but they won't be Q1 eliminators week in, week out. And the driver lineup they've got as well does not deserve to be that far at the bottom for me.
I was going to say, it's not the drivers. It's definitely not the drivers. It's definitely that car is a boat. That car is an utter boat. It's just a shame, really, considering where they have come from the last.
It is.
Well, I think both winners. Both race winners, and they're struggling at the back of the grid. It's like they don't deserve to be there. Okay, they both have times where they haven't been like at the top of the grid, but I mean, you can't just blame it all on the drivers. The car is just a tractor.
Yeah,
I think it's the best way of putting it.
I think fair play to Ocon this weekend though, because he did really well to sort of. Where did he finish in the end? Was it 13th, 14th?
I think
it was something along those lines. I think fair play to him for that, because it could easily be finishing plumb last. But I mean, otherwise, they are really going to struggle. I actually wanted to say on the topic of Alpine that if everyone leaves, I think you should just give team principal to Jeremy Clarkson.
Why not?
I've seen that post on
Twitter.
Twitter.
Alpine are going to get any sort of good thing out of this season.
No, I just don't think you can go like a whole season without improvement. I'm sure they will see improvement, but it's only the fact that they've fallen back from where they were last year. So maybe the improvement is only getting to them where they were last year, if you see what I mean. So the improvement on this year is getting them to where they were last year, which still wasn't where they wanted to be anyway. So maybe they will pick up points. There's no way in hell that, and a team like Alpine, with the history of the same, Renault, Lotus, and all that, there's no way a team like that will finish from zero. It's not going to happen. But maybe they are going to finish lower than sixth. It will seem this year, and then make even further strides downwards.
Well, in my predictions, I did say bottom two, so I might be right. I might have.
But remember when we sat in the bottom in the rooms downstairs last year, and we said McLaren are going to be the worst team.
Yeah, that's true.
Just got to wait and see. But going off of my knowledge, well, not my knowledge. Sure, that's the wrong word to use. Going off of my thoughts on it, the F1 season has officially started, by the way, because we're two races in.
Yeah.
So now is actually where it starts.
About the results.
I think going from speaking about a driver retiring before the race to a driver retiring shortly through the race. Will, your favourite subject and your favourite driver. And by the way,
to you.
Quickly before we get onto it, I didn't realise that obviously in the commentary this weekend they were saying that Ollie Bearman's the third youngest driver ever, or in the top three youngest drivers ever. I didn't realise Lance Stroll was in that category.
Yeah.
Along with Max, which is like, how? Yeah, I think that is the best way to explain it.
Well, I'm sure you've all seen that Drive to Survive episode with the opening scene with Aston Martin. Like, I knew they were rich, but they are rich.
I think the best person to take us away with this part of the conversation and this part of the episode is Mr. William Smith himself. Will, talk us through what happened.
Careful, Will. Be careful what you say. We've got a career we want to have here in the sport.
I start to question it more and more why, like we said earlier, the talent that is in F2 and around the world in Super Formula and IndyCar, why they don't have a seat. Because this accident it is driver error. It's not the car. It's not someone else hitting him. It's purely it's a skill issue. It's a massive skill.
Put it this way, no one else made that mistake in any session at all this weekend.
Didn't Logan Sargent, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, but he didn't put it in the wall.
He didn't put it in the wall, but I think, yeah. But then as well, you've got to look at that and think Lance Stroll is on the same, if not worse, than Logan Sargent.
Just for anyone who doesn't know, what turn was it? It's like turn 11 or 12.
No.
It was 20 something.
Yeah, 27, 6.
The quick left,
like 23. I think it was 23.
How you can clip the inside wall and then plough it straight into the opposite wall.
Well, to be fair, he lost the suspension. So by clipping the wall, he lost suspension. But
it's the fact that he clunks the wall and then continues accelerating before he realises that he's lost the suspension when the wheel is pointing that way and he's going that way.
How many times as well we've spoken on this podcast about things like happening on the live broadcast?
Yeah.
It was from the helicopter shot, wasn't it? You just saw him go into the wall.
It just baffles me how he still has a seat, because I know, and like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not turning around and saying like these are the top drivers in the world we are talking about. I'm not turning around and saying he is useless. I could do so much better. I'm not saying that. No one could. But the richness in talents we have around the globe right now that do not have a place in the pinnacle of motorsport is beyond me. Because you're telling me Tara Pacher would have done that.
The thing is,
you're telling me Liam Lawson would have done that? No.
You said Ollie Bearman would have done that.
Not even Nick. Exactly. Ollie Bearman, who's in a wider car than the F2 ones, didn't even hit the barrier.
This is the thing, right, that doesn't help Lance Stroll really is that he really hasn't been putting the performances for a while now, but it's just the fact his dad runs the team. It's like, surely he even knows why he's in that seat, because what's he doing to
Do you know
prove
he's
it?
going to get a podium next week? Do you know that? He's going to get a podium next week.
Well, I want to see that. It would be something new and different, and if he did, I'd come on this podcast and I'd say, William, fair play to Lance Stroll. He did a great drive.
That
But
would
he's
be
not.
the amount of slander that Will has
How
given.
he didn't get one at the start of last year is ridiculous. That Aston Martin car. He was never anywhere near Fernando.
Well, it's because he decided to fall off his bike.
Well, no, he was better. Those first two races where he had the bad wrist, he was
Someone hit
better.
him with a car, and then he'll be all... But not at high speed, at low speed.
Like 10 miles an hour. Not even
Yeah.
that.
On
So
the subject
like
of
that.
Stroll, though, and his crash, please could we talk about the
the
race?
audio
Use
after-
a moment of comedy gold.
It's brilliant, yeah. Can you
So
bring
without
it back
obviously
to the
using
no one in the wall?
Yeah, without using the official transcribe that took place. Oh my god! I just love the fact that the team don't know he's in the wall. But for those that aren't aware, he goes to his team engineer. I've hit the wall. The engineer goes, "Can you bring it back?" And he goes, "No, I'm in the bleeping wall." And I
the
laugh.
sarcastic tone he says it in.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
put it straight in the group chat.
tone.
I put it straight in the group chat. I was
was
dying of laughter. But how do his team not know? Like, of course they've got all the data and the graphic, but like, surely they've got a TV screen somewhere. Surely they can see their driver is in the
It was
wall.
on the live stream as well that they watched.
It was on the live broadcast as well. So, that was funny. That was funny.
And they have a track map as well.
Yeah, obviously Gasly was technically the first retiree of the season, but that's, in my eyes, that's the first retiree I'm going to think of is Stroll's crash in Saudi Arabia.
It's just a fact. It's just a fact that, like I say, for example, Ollie Bearman, who literally spent less than a day and a half in a Formula One car.
One qualifying and one race session.
Yep,
A day and
and
a half,
he didn't hit a wall once while getting used to the width of the car.
And his first lap in FP3 was 9.1 seconds, then his pole lap in F2.
It's just
That's
ridiculous.
incredible.
Can we move on to Ollie now? For like the Stroll segment's done. We need to just
Thank God.
We need to just say how incredible he done. What a performance! I mean, his move on Hulkenberg was ridiculous. For his first race in a Formula 2 car, I mean, I said before the race, he's either going to get points and do really well, or he's going to struggle because he doesn't know the size of the cars and the power and the how to last in a race. It was the longest race he's ever done in his career as well. Just to mention,
Yeah, the fact that he was that physically fit to do that already.
By the way, as well, he's literally younger than all three of us.
I know. Oh, he's 3 years younger
The
than me.
first time, I will never ever forget him now for this, whether that was his first or last ever, whether it was his last or he goes on to 500 odd races in F1. I will never forget Ollie Bearman, Saudi Arabia 2024, because he was the first ever driver in F1 that was younger than me. It's like in football where you get to the point now where it's like, oh God, he's younger than me. But in F1, oh no, I feel so old.
Yeah.
I feel so old. But you are right, Ollie Bearman. He became the 68th driver to score on his F1 debut and the first British driver as well to do so since Paul di Resta in 2011. Now, Will, he's from your neck of the woods, isn't he?
He is 30 minutes away from me.
Yeah, but he's got such his accent. You can tell he's Mr. Worldwide, isn't he? Because he's picked up a bit of everything.
Well, if you think about it, he's been part of the Prema setup and the Ferrari Academy setup for I'm not sure how many years, so I'm not going to say the amount, but he's been there for a long amount of time. So he's probably lived out there, spoken Italian for
he's got a bit of
purely
sauce.
Italian
He's
for
got,
a few
he's got
years.
some sauce.
But he doesn't speak at all like you, Mr. William. He has a bit of a twang in some of his words.
Yeah,
It's just like it's a bit like Lando Norris. I don't know if you've realised, but because his mum, I think, is Belgian. If you listen to some of the words he says, you're like, that's not totally.
Yeah.
Ollie's from Chelmsford. I am 30 minutes from Chelmsford. And...
You're from Essex. Oh, shut up.
Huh?
That's going to be cut.
Sorry, that's poor from me. But no, on Ollie Bearman, he was incredible, and I think it's also very important to note that when he would have got told to do it. Have you seen? Obviously, he'll have his own training program for F2, but have you seen the picture F1 put out of his headrest after the race?
Yes.
He's
It's
dented
dented,
it
isn't it?
because of the G-force. His neck. Well, sorry, so it'd have been swinging left because obviously it's
his left shoulder, isn't it?
Is it? Hang on a minute. Saudi is clockwise, isn't it?
Anti-clockwise.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is an
No,
anti-clockwise.
Yeah,
It
so
is an anti-clockwise
it's
circuit.
anti-clockwise because the pits, the paddock's on the inside and it goes
Yeah.
to right.
Yeah, anti-clockwise. Therefore, you can see a massive dent in the left-hand side of his headrest from where his neck. And I did think of Sunday morning. I did think of poor Ollie. I reckon he was in a lot of pain. But he did an incredible job.
What performance? I mean, to qualify in 11th, was it only 300ths off of Lewis's time? And obviously Lewis pulled out of his rerun at the end of Q2. But to place 11th in qualifying for your third session in the Formula One car, because obviously he done Haas in Mexico last year. Did he do Haas in Abu Dhabi last year as well?
He did. Yeah, he did do 2 of the driver programs last year in Mexico and Abu Dhabi.
Only his 4th session, his first qualifying session in the Formula One car, and he comes P11, which
First
is
time in that Ferrari as well.
First time in the Ferrari, yeah. And to then in the race make up 4 positions, come 7th, fend off Lewis, Norris. I mean, obviously they were 2 seconds back, so there was a fair gap to them drivers, which I mean, I'm sure which I want to get on to in a minute. The Mercedes and the McLaren battle throughout the race once we finish. W boat, yeah. Yeah, I think to the fact that he held off Lando and George and he was pushing literally as hard as he could was phenomenal. I mean, he done such a good job, especially at 18 years of age, to do as well as he did is remarkable.
But can we stop with the whole he's 18 because it really doesn't help.
I agree, Will, I agree with you.
It really doesn't help, man.
I'm 3 years older than him. How do you think I feel?
Ollie, you're 21.
Yes.
What?
12.
No, he doesn't. He looks like Jack Doohan.
No, have you seen? He's growing his hair out more like you.
No,
now.
I know. No, but he has. But then I think of when we did the pilot for this last year, and you had that hair.
Similar, yeah. But
you're 21, Ollie.
Ollie, bring back the luscious
Wait,
locks.
so hang on a minute. Well. So, are you older than Piastri?
Oh, don't tell me that. Hold on a minute.
I don't know. Piastri.
Why are you not 19?
I took a gap here before I done.
What are you, Will?
I'm 20.
Have you just turned 20?
I turned 20 in October.
Piastri is 22, so I'm not as old as Piastri.
Oh,
very close.
I turned 20 in October.
I turned 22 in October.
I got to wait till June. I'm still a teen. No, so hang on a minute. Did you know that Ollie Bearman was the first driver as well in F1 that wasn't born when Schumacher won any of his titles?
Damn. Ben, you're still waiting for a pen license.
Wait, he was what? No, he was he must have been what? 2006.
He was born 2005, and he won his last thing in 2004.
2005?
I know.
Huh?
Yeah, I know.
He hasn't done his sats yet. He's a child.
Ollie, we're literally only a year older than him.
He's a child. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I think I saw on the graphics over the weekend that the day he was born, Alonso won the Spanish Grand Prix in 2005.
Wow. But how mental is that, though, that Alonso won that race and then they raced each other this weekend?
I mean,
Fernando is the greatest rookie of all time.
Yeah, that's credit to Alonso.
Yeah, no, that. By the way, I've got a mid-season. I've got a second race season prediction. Alonso's going to call it quits in the next 3 races.
Really?
You can see he's gearing up for a big send-off. What did you say? Sorry, Will?
I said, but if I was racing with Lance Stroll. I'm in P4. Let's bring in some solid points for the team. Where's Stroll? In the wall. Brilliant. Cool. Yeah. Sick.
No,
that's
but I do think he's going to call it quits. I think he's got to the point now where he is going to call it time. maybe he knows more than we do as well about like Red Bull seats, Mercedes seats, whatever.
I
But
thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say. Well, maybe he knows more about his own career. I was gonna. Yeah, it's him.
no, Will, I know more about Alonso's career than Alonso. Thank you.
Oh, all right, mate.
But I think no, I do think he. I don't think he'll. I think this is last year. Put it that way. I do.
Ollie Bearman was born in 2005.
I know it is mental, isn't it?
What?
Also, not going back on the topic of Red Bull, but does anyone actually remember that Perez had a 5-second penalty?
No, move
Yeah.
on.
It just got added to his time at the end. I totally forgot he had it. I thought,
Too, so fair play to him.
I saw Chris Medland tweet it. What a guy, by the way, on Twitter. And I thought, oh my God, has he been given a post-race penalty? And that was the one he got given that I'd forgot he'd been given for the, was it unsafe release with Alonso?
Yes.
Yeah, during the safety car period on the lap.
What
8.
what happened with the one before the race with Lando? Nothing happened with that one.
Oh, I know. I don't get that because he clearly jump started. I mean, you know what I find really funny?
Oh, no, sorry, I wasn't talking about that.
Oh,
I was going to get to that. I was talking about before the race.
The pre-race one.
Yeah,
which
laps to the
had
grid.
Tsunoda pull out on him.
Yeah.
yes. No, yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, I don't think anything happened of it, did it?
No.
Because it was
I
pre-race.
just wanna-
No, the Norris thing, I've got a conspiracy theory. So take the floor, Ollie, but I've got a conspiracy theory.
What I find, so what I was just going to allude to is that the thing that I find funny about Formula One is how petty all of the drivers are. Now, George is on board of when Lando, I mean, he did like
There's
jump
jumping the start and then there's taking a leap.
I mean, he jumped the start, but I think what I found really funny is that George came over there and it was like, jump start Lando. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, we hear it when drivers go over the track limits. All of the drivers go, Norris track limits or Lewis track limits, turn 8 or whatever. And it's like, they're so petty to try and give each other penalties. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to play a little bit.
Game is game.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right?
Here we go.
Whether or not I mean it or not is for the listener to decide. But on the Friday for qualifying, Lando Norris said to Sky, because he wasn't happy with the straight line speed of the car, the only way that he'll be able to improve is by jumping the start.
I saw that.
He's then proceeded to jump the start and not to be given a penalty in the week building up to where the heads of Formula One is investigated for tampering with results. I will put my mic down and I will see you later.
Yeah, it really does go back to the whole. The sport is really in a bit of disarray right now.
I don't want to go into that, Will, because that's just a little thought of mine. And the reality is it's probably just terrible bad luck. But did find it interesting. Can't lie to you.
Can we
if
just
anything, that's on the sport for making me think that.
Wait, Ollie, what did you say?
Bad debate.
Going back to the whole thing of McLaren not having the pace, can we talk about that? Because that was really interesting. So that was probably the biggest bit of the race was the Oscar and Lewis moments, and then the Lando and Lewis moments. Is the Mercedes and the McLaren were such a weird combination in terms of speed, because straight line speed, McLarens were nowhere, but Mercedes seemed to have it. But going through the corners, I don't know if you two have seen, but going through the corners,
Lewis is on board.
Mercedes are, I think it said Mercedes were on a par with Alpine and the Williams through high-speed corners.
So last year it was low speed corners and mid speed corners they were really poor in, but the high speed corners and the car straight line speed was good. This year it's high speed corners and the car straight line speed that's bad, but low speed. So when we go to places like Japan, Singapore, Brazil, there'll be quality. I'm convinced they tailor that Merc car so it's good in Brazil anyway, and just get the rest of the other 23 rounds.
Can I say though?
No.
Yeah, I've got to say something though that I read earlier on today that apparently Mercedes have now discovered that they've got issues with their simulator and that what they're doing on the simulator isn't matching up because of. So maybe this could be a huge breakthrough that this has been an issue for a while now and they've just discovered it and they can slowly start. Well,
The
yeah.
breakthrough
So
we're mudded. That's the breakthrough.
Mick Schumacher's broken the simulator.
Yeah. He
but
spent too long bashing at it to try and get a Merc seat.
but Toto Wolff has come out and said that he's 1,000% confident that Australia will be good. Now, to come out and say that 1,000%, they're gonna. I think. Listen, I think George Russell. I think my prediction for Australia: George Russell podium.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No.
I also hope we get a race in Australia this year like we did last year, because that was
Oh,
carnage.
that's quality. I mean, we're going to have to get up ridiculous. I will have to get up ridiculously early for it because the Formula 2 coverage is probably.
That's why we love you, Ollie, because you
Yeah.
do
I will
it
have
for
a
the
look.
love.
Formula 2 is out. It says to be confirmed on my app at the minute, so I don't know. But the race in Formula 1 starts at 4, so I can only imagine Formula 2 is going to start at probably 1:30.
But I seem to
Probably
love as
earlier
well.
than that.
Australian Grand Prix, because we'll be recording on the day, and we recorded on the day last year. So something about Australian Grand Prix, it's that immediate reaction. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to mention, unless anyone else has anything else they want to talk about, was Hulkenberg scored in Jeddah for the 3rd year in a row. I thought that was a cool stat.
Yeah, but that's just down to Kevin Magnussen being
is
wide as a thick boy. That's all it is. That's all it is. Kevin Magnussen's a thick boy, and he let Hulkenberg get
incredible.
I tell you what, I think that is the perfect place to end it.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Big boy.
Title of the episode: 2024.
No. Sorry. Oh, thank God I've remembered, because I'd be so upset if I haven't. Do you want a look at the first week of predictions?
Oh, go on. Oh, what, the scoreboard?
Yes.
Yes.
This is going to be my new favourite segment, by the way. So
Ben, explain to the listeners and the viewers.
I will. I'm going to go full Chris Stark mode and explain the rules at the start of every week.
Are we doing driver of the weekend? Ollie, me and you. Molly does that.
Oh, YouTube will as well. Well, his was Fittipaldi, wasn't it?
Ben's already said K-Mag.
Yeah.
You've said Ollie Bearman.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Max Verstappen then.
Yeah, fair. I think
And Will has been deducted. But no, I'm joking. I'm joking. So yes, for the listeners, listen. So unfortunately, very poor. We didn't do this for Bahrain, so it will hopefully only now be a 23 prediction calendar, whatever. But we put our top 5 predictions out for qualifying and for the race. Now, the way it works is, say you think Verstappen will win or get pole, and he does, you get a point. And say someone comes third, and you put them third, you get a point. But if you get your top 5 correct, you get 10 points. So if that's not the top 5 drivers in the top 5, it has to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all correct in order. You get 10 points. So effectively, if you're not getting 10 points, you want 4. Is effectively the way it kind of works. Now, I probably going forward will break it down so I know what points was for what. This weekend I haven't, only because it's new, and I only just wanted to make sure we got the scores in. So I can't remember who got what point for what bit they got correct, but I can confirm that opening the season in 3rd place with 3 points is Mr. Ollie King.
Oh. Okay then.
And tied in 1st is Ben and Will with 5. But yeah, we're both tied on 5. You did take a stellar lead after quali, but I've somehow brought it back.
Did I bag
next week? I will actually tell you what you got
basically perfect.
You got 3 right for quali.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I thought I did.
In fact, if I remember correctly, it was you were 3, I was on 2, and Ollie was on 1. So Ollie then got 2 in the race. I got 3 in the race, and you got 2 in the race. So I had a better race, you had a better quali. And Ollie's just
I've just had a stinker. I've just had an absolute stinker.
Ollie, just don't bother.
There's a long way to go.
Just leave.
It's 1 in. We're only 1 in. It's fine. The comeback's on.
The main thing we need to decide live on the podcast is there a reward for the winner or a forfeit for the loser?
I would say reward for the winner.
I was going to say forfeit for the
boring.
loser.
Forfeit for the loser.
Yeah.
Oh. If Ben, if you lose, No, I know this is only specific to you, but I think it's the best way to do it. If you lose...
say Max Verstappen is the best.
No, I was going to go even worse. You have to buy a Max Verstappen hat and wear it for the pilot episode.
No!
I'll match it.
No!
I'll Stroll, Bottas.
Oh, well, I'll get a Bottas one.
Yeah, Bottas.
But he actually doesn't even care that badly about Bottas. Whereas
Him or
me and
me?
you,
Him. Me?
no, for Stroll, the Stroll one, you would hate it, right?
Oh yeah, no, I
Ollie
would.
would not care if he had to wear a Bottas hat. He would not care.
No, we can
slightest.
figure one better for Ollie.
I'll take it as Verstappen. You take a Stroll. But who buys it? The loser or the winners have to buy it?
Loser has to buy it.
Oh, okay, fine.
Loser has to buy it.
I'm happy with mine, and
Yeah.
Will, I'm happy with yours. But Ollie's has to be different.
I think throughout the season
Might
we'll be able to.
Might just make you buy a Palace shirt.
No, that's no. That
There you go.
That's a fantastic one.
There you
That
go.
Palace shirts are more expensive anyway. They shouldn't be because they're.
Or a scarf then. A scarf.
Fine. If you want to wear Bottas, let's get him a Palace shirt with Bottas 77 on the back.
No,
That's well
Yeah.
done.
Double whammy. Double whammy.
Brilliant.
Oh, no, I think it should stay Formula One related. I think throughout the season, I will eventually come across a driver who I'm not happy with, and then I will.
No, but you would have discovered it mid-season, and it will only be a little petty. Oh, I can't.
Yeah, whereas
He's had a raging addiction against Lance Stroll in F1 since the start of last year. I've had a raging addiction against Max Verstappen having easy wins since 2022.
you've had a raging addiction against Max Verstappen since Abu Dhabi.
Abu
Be
Dhabi.
quiet.
Yeah, that's true. No, actually, to be fair, it's probably Monza. It would have
Monza, yeah.
Monza maybe. Yeah, probably Monza when it started. No, well, probably like what he was saying after Silverstone.
Yeah, Silverstone onwards, heightened in Monza, absolutely peaked.
Maybe even
at
Imola when
peaked
they had
at
that
Jeddah,
contact.
and then just exploded.
I can't wear Red Bull, man. I don't even drink
wear
it. I refrain from. Whenever I ask for a Jaeger bomb, I say, but don't put Red Bull. Use a different mixer.
Hey, no, that's how we end it
No, I do. I genuinely can't drink it.
in the episode.
That's
is
psychopathic.
Formula One or companies listening, if you do want me to work for you, I will give you a absolutely non-biased view, and I will give you what you want. This is just this is friendly fire with the boys on the pod.
Sellout. It's awful.
And that is where I think we should end it today. After that ludicrous comment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
The reel's gone off. I'm taking it now while Ben's chatting absolute rubbish.
And we will catch you again for the Australian Grand Prix race review. See you all later.